We live in the most connected time in human history. A message can travel across the planet in less than a second. You can FaceTime someone in Tokyo while sitting in traffic in Chicago. You can comment on a stranger's cat video in Brazil before your coffee even cools down. And yet, for a generation raised on constant connection, loneliness is quietly becoming one of the biggest health epidemics of our time. According to the Gallup World Poll, global loneliness has increased by nearly 40% since 2010. And here's the wild part. That's roughly the same decade that social media use exploded. Coincidence? Maybe. But it's enough to make people ask the question, wait, is social media actually making us less social? When social media first arrived, it was all optimism and pixelated promises. Stay connected with friends. Share your life. Join the conversation. It sounded like the digital utopia, and it worked, sort of. Today, about 4.8 billion people are on social platforms. That's over half of humanity. But beneath the glossy filters and endless stories, something feels off. We've all felt it. That weird moment where you scroll through hundreds of updates and still feel completely detached. Or that awkward silence when you hang out with friends and everyone's staring at their phones like it's a group meditation. So what's going on here? Did social media actually make us antisocial? Or did it just change what being social looks like? See, researchers are divided. On one side, you've got studies warning that too much scrolling rewires how we connect, replacing conversation with comparison. On the other, experts argue it's not the apps themselves. It's how we use them. Same tool, different outcome. Like, a knife can make dinner or start a true crime documentary. It depends who's holding it. Let's rewind a bit. Before social media, connection meant something physical. Proximity, shared space, real-time energy. You'd see your friends at school, talk on the phone, maybe even write notes on paper. Yes, paper. Wild concept. Then, somewhere around 2004 or 2010, everything went digital. Platforms like MySpace, Facebook, and Twitter promised infinite connection. But they age-slow changed what connection meant. We started measuring friendships in numbers, followers, likes, streaks. Our social worth became data points. And suddenly, connection wasn't just something you felt. It was something you could count. But here's where it gets messy. According to Harvard's Human Flourishing Program, people who spend more than 2 hours per day on social media report lower life satisfaction and higher social isolation. But when used for communication, not scrolling, that same time correlates with higher reported connection. In other words, the problem might not be social media. It's social media without the social part. Because let's be honest, half of us aren't talking anymore. We're just performing connection. You post something funny. I reply with a smile emoji. You react with a fire emoji. And we both pretend that counts as a conversation. We've built digital town squares where everyone's talking, but almost nobody's listening. And somewhere along the way, our brains started confusing attention with affection. Someone liking your post feels like someone liking you, but they're not the same thing. And your brain knows it. When you get a notification, your brain releases dopamine, the same chemical tied to reward and addiction. That's not an accident. The like button was literally designed to trigger it. Former Facebook engineers have admitted that engagement metrics were built to maximize time on platform, not well-being. And for a while it worked too well. What started as digital connection turned into digital compulsion. We check our phones about 144 times a day, according to Rescue Time. That's once every 7 minutes we're awake, which, ironically, doesn't leave a lot of time to actually talk to people. But here's the thing. Loneliness isn't just about being alone. It's about feeling unseen. And while social media gives us infinite visibility, it doesn't always give us attention that matters. As one psychologist put it, we've replaced presence with presentation. We're connected, but not necessarily known. And that's a huge difference. Now, to be fair, this isn't everyone's experience. Some people genuinely thrive online. Communities form, friendships grow, voices find audiences. We'll get into that side later. But at least here, at the start, it's worth asking, if connection is supposed to make us feel less alone, why do so many people say they've never felt lonelier? Maybe connection, real connection, isn't about quantity at all. Maybe it's about depth. And depth doesn't always trend well on TikTok. So that's where our investigation begins. We're not here to prove or disprove a theory. We're here to map the data, see the contradictions, and look at how something meant to unite billions might be fracturing the very idea of being social. Let's dig in. Before we talk about whether social media makes us less social, we have to talk about how it was designed. Because none of this, the likes, the notifications, the infinite scroll, happened by accident. Every tap, swipe, and refresh you make was engineered to keep you here a little longer than you planned. The like button might look innocent now, just a simple thumbs up. But when Facebook introduced it in 2009, it changed the entire internet. Before that, people posted updates. But engagement was slow. Comments took effort. Likes made validation instant. No words, no context, just approval. And here's the twist. That tiny button created an entire feedback economy. It gamified social interaction. Suddenly, your worth online could be measured in numbers. Likes, shares, followers, retweets. It turned social life into a scoreboard. According to early Facebook developers, the like button was meant to spread positivity. But what it actually did was create a digital slot machine. Every time you post, you're pulling a lever, hoping for a hit of social validation. That ding sound, that's your dopamine. Your brain lights up, literally, the same way it does when you gamble. And once your brain links that notification with reward, it starts craving more. You check again, and again, and again. You're not bored. Your brain's running a background process called, what if someone liked my last post? In behavioral science, this is called variable reinforcement. It means rewards don't appear consistently. Sometimes you get likes, sometimes you don't. That unpredictability keeps you hooked. It's the same principle behind casino machines, email refreshes, and yes, TikTok's For You page. And the scary part? You're not addicted to social media. You're addicted to the possibility of social validation. Let's zoom out. Around 2012, other platforms noticed Facebook's success and copied the playbook. Twitter had hearts. Instagram had double taps. YouTube added thumbs up. Suddenly, every platform wasn't just social. It was competitive. Creators started optimizing for engagement. And users? We started curating our lives like brands. Because if the internet's a stage, no one wants to be the post that gets 2 likes and a pity comment from your cousin. Enter the algorithm era. If the like button was the match, algorithms were the gasoline. Around 2016, social media feeds stopped being chronological and started being personalized. Instead of showing you everything in order, platforms started predicting what you'd stay for. The result? Endless, customized, emotionally charged feeds designed for you, or more accurately, your attention. As one ex-Google engineer put it, the product isn't the app. The product is your time. Algorithms learned fast. They tracked what made you pause, what you replayed, what made you scroll faster. They studied your digital body language. And over time, they got eerily good at knowing what keeps you hooked. Often better than you do. But that comes at a cost. If your feed is always giving you what you already react to, it quietly narrows your world. You stop seeing different opinions and start seeing your own reflection over and over again. That's called a filter bubble. And ironically, it's one of the main ways social media can make us less social, by showing us less of society. Back in 2010, you'd open an app, scroll for a bit, and hit the bottom. Now there is no bottom. The scroll is infinite. There's always another post, another video, another take. And when there's no end, your brain never gets closure. It's like watching a movie that never ends. Just scene after scene after scene. The result? Digital exhaustion. You didn't plan to be online for 2 hours. You just lost track of endings. But let's be fair. Not every engineer had evil intentions. Some were genuinely trying to make the world more connected. They just underestimated what happens when human psychology meets billion-dollar optimization. As one researcher at Stanford said, we didn't build platforms for connection. We built platforms for attention and hoped connection would follow. Spoiler, it didn't always. Early marketing sold social media like vitamins for your social life. Stay in touch. Never miss a moment. Now it's more like caffeine. Energizing in small doses, draining in excess. We're alert, connected, awake, and somehow tired all the time. And yeah, there's a little irony in that. We built the most advanced communication tools in history. And now we use them mostly to ignore each other in more efficient ways. The like button wasn't just a design feature. It was the birth of the engagement economy. A system where your attention, Your emotions, even your boredom, are up for sale. It changed the definition of being social. It turned empathy into analytics. And it made connection something we scroll past without even noticing. So, was this all manipulation or just evolution? That depends on who you ask and which feed you're seeing. But one thing's clear, the like button didn't just shape the internet, it shaped us. We've all felt that moment. You post something, it gets crickets, or worse, you see your friends hanging out without you. Again, you close the app, and somehow, even though you're surrounded by millions of people online, you feel completely alone. This is the paradox researchers are trying to quantify. They call it the Disconnection Hypothesis. The idea that digital connection might displace real-world connection. According to a 2023 study in the American Journal of Preventive Medicine, people who spend more than 2 hours per day on social platforms are twice as likely to report feeling socially isolated. Twice. But causation isn't simple. Are lonely people using social media more? Or is social media making people lonely? It's a classic chicken and egg situation. Except in this case, both the chicken and the egg are scrolling through memes at 2 a.m. Let's talk brains for a second. Neuroscientists have found that the ventral striatum, the part responsible for reward, lights up when you get likes. But when you expect likes and don't get them, your amygdala, the region tied to stress, flares instead. That's emotional whiplash in milliseconds. You're literally riding a roller coaster of digital approval. And here's the kicker. Those mini highs and lows don't just affect mood. They can influence how confident you feel about social interaction offline. Psychologists call this the social displacement hypothesis. The idea that online interaction replaces face-to-face time. In the late 2010s, researchers from Stanford and the University of Michigan followed thousands of young adults for 6 years. They found that every extra hour spent online was associated with fewer minutes of in-person communication and lower reported empathy. Basically, the more we scroll, the less we look up. But it's not just time, it's type. Active use, DMs, calls, group chats, tends to strengthen relationships. Passive use, lurking, scrolling, comparing, doesn't. The problem? Passive use is 80% of what we do. We often think we're multitasking socially, staying in touch online while we hang out. But studies from the Journal of Experimental Social Psychology show that even the presence of a phone on the table, not ringing, not buzzing, just there, lowers the quality of conversation and perceived empathy between people, just sitting there. Like an emotional third wheel, it's called the mere presence effect. And yes, your phone is literally interrupting conversations even when it's silent. Let's be honest, we've turned hanging out into a content opportunity. If something fun happens and no one records it, did it even happen? That's half joke, half existential crisis. But that mentality changes how we experience moments. We're no longer in them. We're curating them. And psychologists call that self-objectification. You start viewing your own life from the outside like a personal brand manager, which sure makes great stories, but not always great memories. The average person now spends 2 hours and 24 minutes a day on social media. For teens, it's closer to 4 hours. Add that up. By 30, you'll have spent nearly 5 years of your life scrolling. 5 years. Imagine if that were a skill, a hobby, a relationship. That's a college degree and a half. That's the strange part. We're connected, but starving for connection. Because what social media gives in quantity, it often takes in quality. And our brains can't quite tell the difference. When you text a friend, your brain logs it as social interaction. But it doesn't get the oxytocin hit that comes from voice, eye contact, or touch. So it keeps craving more. It's like eating cotton candy. Big volume, no substance. And yes, it's messing with our sleep too. The National Sleep Foundation found that 79% of Gen Z check social media within 10 minutes of going to bed. Blue light delays melatonin, FOMO delays everything else. And nothing says, good night, like anxiety about being the only one not invited to something you didn't even want to go to. To be fair, not every study paints doom. Some show that short, intentional bursts, like messaging a friend or sharing memes, can actually reduce loneliness. It's when usage becomes compulsive that things go sideways. One Harvard researcher summed it up perfectly. Social media is not the enemy of connection, it's the enemy of reflection. And that's the real danger. If every quiet moment gets filled with a scroll, we lose the stillness where real connection starts. So, does the evidence prove social media is making us less social? Maybe not definitively, but the pattern is hard to ignore. When conversation becomes content, presence becomes performance, and friendship becomes a feed. Something human gets lost in translation. Up next, we'll explore the flip side. Because believe it or not, there's data showing social media might actually be saving connection for some people. Okay, so far we've heard the doom side. Attention hijacking, dopamine loops, the loneliness spiral. But that's not the whole picture. Because for every study showing that social media isolates, there's another showing it connects people in ways that were never possible before. And that's where it gets interesting. Remember 2020? Of course you do. None of us could leave the house. During the pandemic, social media wasn't just entertainment. It was infrastructure, virtual birthdays, live-streamed concerts, family FaceTimes, online game nights, all powered by digital connection. According to Pew Research, 2021, 81% of respondents said social media helped them feel connected and informed during lockdowns. That's not nothing. When the world shut down, the internet kept the lights on. And it's not just during crises. Platforms like Reddit, Discord, and WhatsApp host communities that, for some people, are their social life. Take support groups, mental health, chronic illness, neurodivergent adults. People who might feel isolated in their offline environments can finally find others who get it. A 2022 Oxford Internet Institute study found that moderate social media use, around 30 to 90 minutes a day, actually correlates with higher social well-being. So it's not the tool itself, it's how it's used. Turns out the line between connection and distraction is thinner than we think. Send a meme to a friend. That's micro-connection. Start a group chat that runs for years. That's a digital friendship circle. The internet didn't kill friendships. It just changed the medium. We used to pass notes in class. Now we send voice notes at 1 a.m. saying, "Bro, I just had a full existential crisis." Progress? Maybe, but still human. Social media also shrunk distance. For long-distance couples, immigrant families, or anyone living abroad, platforms like Instagram, WhatsApp, and WeChat are lifelines. Back in the 1990s, staying in touch overseas meant expensive phone cards and delayed letters. Now it's instant: photos, video, voice. Sociologists call this transnational intimacy. It means closeness no longer requires geography. You can be half a planet apart and still share a life in real time. For every toxic comment section, there's a wholesome corner of the internet where strangers lift each other up. Someone posts, "I'm struggling today," and 300 people reply with encouragement or resources. That's community. It's small, it's fleeting, but it's real. As one Reddit user once wrote, "I don't know your real name, but thanks for reminding me I'm not alone." Researchers now distinguish between active and passive use. Active tours, messaging, commenting, sharing. Passive tears, lurking, scrolling, consuming. The data? Active users report less loneliness, higher happiness, and more perceived social support. Passive users show the opposite trend. So maybe it's not about deleting social media. Maybe it's about participating in it differently. And let's not ignore creativity. The internet gave birth to collaborative culture, indie podcasts, small creators, fan art communities, open source projects. People meet online, build things together, sometimes even start companies. That's the opposite of isolation. It's networked creation. In education too, platforms like YouTube, Discord study servers, and online forums turned learning into a shared experience. If you've ever binged Study With Me videos at 2 a.m., you know. Sometimes you just need the illusion of company to keep going. And maybe that's what connection really means in the digital age. Not constant contact, but shared context. So is social media saving social life? Maybe not single-handedly, but it's definitely adapting it. If loneliness was rising before social media, and it was, then maybe the platforms didn't create isolation. Maybe they just made it visible. And maybe that visibility is step one toward fixing it. So maybe the internet didn't destroy connection. It evolved it, awkwardly, imperfectly, but undeniably. Because behind every profile picture and every handle, there's still a person trying to be seen. Next, we'll talk about the machines behind that evolution. The invisible systems deciding who sees what, when, and why. You decide. You've heard the phrase, "the algorithm made me see it." But what is the algorithm? It's like this invisible friend who claims to know what you want, but doesn't always have your best interest in mind. Imagine if a friend followed you around all day, took notes on what made you pause, and then whispered, "Hey, you seemed sad when you saw that video. Want to see 10 more like it?" That's your algorithm. Every scroll, every like, every pause on a video, it's all data. And that data feeds a system designed to predict one thing. How long can we keep you here? Because the longer you stay, the more ads you see. And in the attention economy, time is the currency. It's not personal, it's mathematical. But the math doesn't always care about your mental health. Social platforms run on engagement loops. The more engagement a post gets, the more the algorithm shows it. And what gets engagement? Emotion. Specifically, strong emotion, anger, outrage, shock, awe, controversy. Not, hey, that's kind of interesting. But wait, what did they just say? The algorithm isn't political. It's emotional. It doesn't know truth from lies, only what keeps you watching. In 2018, researchers at MIT found that false stories on Twitter spread 6 times faster than true ones. Not because people like lies, but because our brains like novelty. And algorithms reward whatever we react to. So the loop goes, reaction, reach, revenue. Repeat. The result is something psychologists call emotional amplification. Your feed isn't neutral. It's tilted toward whatever spikes your feelings. 2 people can open the same app and see entirely different worlds. One sees news about climate change. The other sees memes about flat Earth. That's not magic. It's personalization. Or as some critics call it, reality fragmentation. It's like we're all living in parallel information universes, each one algorithmically curated for maximum comfort and maximum reaction. Back in 2011, internet activist Eli Pariser coined the term filter bubble. He warned that personalization would isolate us in ideological echo chambers. Fast forward a decade. He was right. And then some. Now, instead of discovering new perspectives, our feeds quietly reinforce what we already believe. We don't stumble into disagreement. We scroll past it. And that's how social media can make us less social without us even realizing it. It doesn't remove other people. It just hides them behind an algorithmic wall. In 2020, internal research from YouTube leaked showing that 70% of watch time came from recommendations, not searches, meaning most of what people see isn't what they looked for. It's what the algorithm chose for them. And when those systems learn that anger keeps you hooked longer than calmness, guess which kind of content gets promoted? Hint, it's not videos of people quietly doing their taxes. These algorithms are built using machine learning, a process where computers teach themselves patterns from massive data sets. They don't understand you. They approximate you based on millions of people who behave like you. So if people who pause on conspiracy videos also like certain hashtags, you might start seeing them too. Not because you believe in them, but because you hesitated for 1.4 seconds. That's not mind control, but it's close enough to make marketers very, very happy. And here's where it gets even trickier. Algorithms learn from human data, and humans are biased. That means the systems inherit our blind spots. They reflect back our own prejudices, popularity biases, even geographic inequality. In short, algorithms are like funhouse mirrors. They don't invent distortion. They amplify it. Now, it's easy to villainize the algorithm, but remember, it's not evil. It's just efficient. It gives us what we prove we want, not what we say we want. We say we want meaningful connection, then we spend 45 minutes watching people fall off skateboards. The algorithm takes notes. So in a way, it's less the system's broken, and more the system is us, on autoplay. That's the real takeaway. Your feed is not objective reality. It's an algorithmic remix of your habits, your emotions, and your history. And if we start confusing that feed for the world itself, that's when we stop being social and start being segmented. So maybe the question isn't, is the algorithm making us less social? Maybe it's, how much of our social life have we outsourced to the algorithm? Because every click, every like, every scroll isn't just shaping your feed, it's shaping you. If you've ever watched your parents text with one finger or heard your grandparents say, the YouTube, you already know. Social media doesn't mean the same thing to everyone. Each generation logged on for a different reason, and each one left with a slightly different definition of what it means to be social. Let's start with the boomers, the first to experience the internet as adults. For them, connection meant information, email chains, Facebook groups, reconnecting with high school friends. Boomers use social media to keep up, not to show off. Fun fact, they still dominate Facebook. If you've ever seen a 14-paragraph political rant under a casserole recipe, now you know why. Then came Gen X, the analog to digital translators. They built the bridge. They saw both worlds, payphones and smartphones. Gen X uses social media pragmatically, LinkedIn to network, Facebook to coordinate family. They're like, I'll post a birthday photo if you remind me when it's due. But even they feel the fatigue. Studies show Gen X reports increasing digital burnout from juggling work, parenting, and endless group chats that could have been emails. Enter the millennials, the first generation to grow up online. They witnessed the social web's glow up firsthand. From AIM away messages to Instagram filters to burnout posts about deleting Instagram, for millennials, social media was identity. It was how you discovered your tribe, built a career, and low-key judged everyone's vacation choices. But here's the twist. Millennials were also the first to realize the cost. They hit adulthood right as algorithms hit monetization. Now they're in this weird middle zone, nostalgic for authenticity, but addicted to aesthetics. In one 2023 survey, 68% of millennials said social media makes them feel connected, but 74% said it also increases anxiety. So basically, I love it, but it's ruining me. And then there's Gen Z, the true digital natives. Born connected, raised online, they learned to scroll before they could spell. For Gen Z, social media isn't a place you visit. It's a layer of existence. Identity, community, creativity, all blended together in real time. They're also the most self-aware users ever. They know the algorithm's playing them, and they're in on the joke. You'll see captions like, posting this so the algorithm doesn't forget me, or low engagement era, and that's okay. That's meta-connection, being ironically aware of the machine while still feeding it. What Gen Z values most? Authenticity, or at least the appearance of it. Apps like Be Real blew up because people got tired of pretending their life was a highlight reel. But even being real can become performative. When you announce, I'm logging off for mental health, that's still a post. We call that the authenticity paradox. We crave realness, but the minute we post it, it becomes content. Researchers at the University of Amsterdam found that Gen Z users maintain multiple selves online: public profiles, private alt accounts, close friends lists, anonymous spaces. Each one performs a different version of identity. It's not fake, it's fragmented. They're managing micro-audiences. It's like running PR for your personality. What's fascinating is how flexible identity has become. You can be a gamer, activist, artist, and meme archivist all before lunch. But that flexibility comes with pressure. To stay visible, relevant, in the conversation. Gen Z often jokes about main character energy. But behind the humor is a truth. When everyone has a platform, everyone feels the need to perform. Still, connection for younger generations isn't dead. It just migrated. A Gen Z study by Deloitte, 2024, found that 72% said they feel more understood online than offline. That doesn't mean the offline world doesn't matter. It means the digital one finally mirrors their internal one. So yes, they're chronically online, but they're also more socially conscious, open-minded, and globally connected than any generation before them. Not despite social media, but partly because of it. The point is, each generation used social media to fill a different gap. Boomers reconnected, Gen X organized, millennials curated, Gen Z constructed. Different tools, same human need, to feel seen, heard, and part of something bigger. Maybe social media didn't create new generations. It just amplified what each one was already searching for. Because in the end, no matter your generation, the question isn't whether you're online. It's who you are when you are. Up next, we look at what happens inside, psychologically and biologically, when digital connection replaces real human contact. Loneliness is weird. You can feel it in a crowd. You can feel it while laughing with friends. You can even feel it while replying to 100 messages at once. That's because loneliness isn't about how many people you talk to. It's about how understood you feel. And lately, that feeling's getting rarer. According to the Harvard Human Flourishing Program, loneliness has increased by over 30% in the past 2 decades. For Gen Z, it's even higher. 1 in 2 say they often or always feel alone. Let that sink in. Half a generation that grew up connected now reports feeling disconnected. It's the ultimate modern paradox. Neuroscientists have been studying what loneliness does to the brain, and it's not pretty. When we're isolated, our amygdala, the region that processes fear and threat, goes into overdrive. Our brains literally start scanning for danger more often. Meanwhile, the the ventral striatum, which handles reward, becomes less responsive. In other words, connection stops feeling rewarding. That's why loneliness can feel self-reinforcing. You crave connection, but when it finally shows up, your brain's like, not worth the risk. A study at UCLA's social neuroscience lab found that social rejection activates the same areas of the brain as physical pain. That's right. Being left out hurts literally the same way stubbing your toe does, except emotional bruises don't fade as easily. Now imagine that rejection multiplied by algorithms, scene zones, ghosting, posts you thought people ignored, each one a tiny hit to your nervous system, each one teaching your brain to expect less connection and more anxiety. Modern loneliness isn't silence, it's static. You're surrounded by noise, but nothing feels like a signal. Psychologists call this social fatigue. The burnout that happens when your social battery drains faster online than it recharges offline, because every post, every DM, every notification demands micro-responses. And eventually, your brain starts treating social interaction like work. That's why you can spend hours on social media and still feel like you haven't talked to anyone. You are busy, not bonded. But loneliness isn't just mental, it's physical. Long-term isolation increases stress hormones, weakens the immune system, and raises the risk of heart disease. It's literally as harmful as smoking 15 cigarettes a day, according to the U.S. Surgeon General. Our biology evolved for tribe, touch, eye contact, rhythm, not DMs and read receipts. But here's the hopeful twist. Your brain can't always tell the difference between digital and in-person care if it feels emotionally genuine. Video calls, voice notes, real conversations online, they do trigger oxytocin, the bonding hormone. So again, it's not that technology kills connection. It's that shallow interaction starves the parts of us that need depth. One psychologist described loneliness as a lack of resonance. You can talk all day, but if nothing resonates, it's just echo. And social media, for all its noise, often drowns out that echo. But when people use it intentionally, when they share vulnerably, or reach out privately instead of performatively, loneliness drops. It's not about deleting apps. It's about deleting autopilot. And sometimes humor helps. Because yeah, it's bleak. But also, we've all been there. That weird group silence at dinner where everyone's scrolling TikTok together. It's not that we've forgotten how to connect. We've just been outsourcing it. Sometimes the most radical thing you can do is put the phone down and say, hey, want to hang out? Scary, I know, but apparently it's still allowed. Humans are wired for touch, eye contact, and laughter that echoes in real space. That's why even 5 minutes of face-to-face connection can reset your nervous system more than 5 hours of scrolling. That's not sentiment. That's neuroscience. Loneliness isn't just a symptom of the digital age. It's a signal. It's your mind's way of saying, hey, you need people. And maybe social media can be the bridge back to that, if we remember what it was supposed to be in the first place. Because at the end of the day, the cure for digital loneliness isn't digital detox. It's digital discipline. Up next, we'll bring it all together. The data, the psychology, and the paradox of connection, to ask what it really means to be social in a digital world. We started this journey with a question. Is social media making us less social? And after an hour of research, data, and maybe a few uncomfortable truths, the answer is complicated. Because social media didn't break connection. We did. When we stopped being intentional about it. Here's what the evidence really shows. Social media amplifies whatever you bring to it. If you use it to connect, learn, share, create, it expands your world. If you use it to compare, distract, or escape, it shrinks it. It's not inherently good or bad. It's just human, because it was built by humans. Messy, emotional, beautiful humans, trying to digitize the oldest instinct we have, to belong. The truth is, technology didn't change who we are. It just held up a mirror. We wanted to be seen. So we built platforms to broadcast ourselves. We wanted to be loved, so we measured it in likes. We wanted community, so we built networks too big to truly know anyone. And maybe, in chasing connection at scale, we lost sight of what connection feels like up close. Psychologists call it ambient intimacy, the sense of closeness you get from constant digital awareness of others. You don't have to talk to your friend every day. You just see them existing online and feel connected. But ambient intimacy isn't real intimacy. It's the illusion of closeness, the social equivalent of background noise. And yet, it's not meaningless. Sometimes that little post, that small message, that single meme, is the thread that keeps someone tethered to the world. So maybe the goal isn't to delete social media. Maybe it's to rebalance the equation, to stop letting algorithms define connection and start defining it ourselves. Think about it. We once spent hours talking face-to-face. Now we spend seconds reacting through screens. But both come from the same impulse, the need to share. If we reclaim that, then maybe social media doesn't have to be the villain in this story. Look, none of us are quitting the internet tomorrow. We're not going off-grid to churn butter and send handwritten letters. Though honestly, letters were kind of elite. We just have to stop letting connection be accidental. Follow fewer accounts. Text one real friend. Call your grandma. Comment something kind without expecting engagement. It's not revolutionary, it's basic humanity. Because connection has always been our species' superpower. We survived by cooperating, building, storytelling. Technology is just the latest chapter in that story, not the ending. And maybe that's what social media is at its best. A digital campfire, a place to gather, share, and remember we're not alone, as long as we don't mistake the light of the fire for the warmth of the people around it. So is social media making us less social? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Mostly, it's reflecting who we are right now. A species still figuring out how to stay human in a hyper-connected world. The real question might be simpler. Are we using connection to escape loneliness? Or to understand it? Because one builds walls, the other builds bridges. These are the facts as they appear in the data. What they mean, that's up to you. This is the research. All facts, no spin. You decide. Thanks for watching the research. If you found this episode thought-provoking, hit subscribe and join us for the next one, where we keep asking questions and letting the data speak. Until then, stay curious.